But once things do actually get to the floor, I mean, I imagine basically we're talking about, the "I'm just a bill" bit from Schoolhouse Rock, just like in DC, where you get a majority to pass a bill in the House, it goes to the Senate. You get a majority to pass the bill in the Senate, and vice versa, depending on which body decides to take it up first. Once it passes both houses, goes to the executive branch, in this case the governor. Governor either vetoes or accepts. If there's a veto, goes back to the houses, and if there are super majorities, if there's a veto-proof majority, let's say in both houses, then it passes anyways. If not, then it doesn't, and we're off onto law land rather than just a bill. So I imagine once we get to the floor here, we're talking the "I'm just a bill" bit from Schoolhouse Rock.
So yes, and that's a good analogy, and it is effective because that is really how the process works. The sign of life in terms of any particular proposal that at least I have, and I think most legislators do, is if it gets out of committee.
Okay.
If a bill, so the first step is there's a whole process in terms of procedural aspects for passing a bill just for committee. So like we talked about, there's a screening process. So that's the meeting of both party leadership sitting down and saying, hey, these are all the proposals that we got sent to this committee. What do we want to do this year? So the first thing you do is decide we want to do these bills, and you vote on having those proposals drafted as ideas by legislative staff. And then you have public hearings on them in committee. So the committee will have a public hearing. Folks will come up and testify. And then once the public hearing is over, then there's a whole other process to decide whether to even bring it to a vote in committee. So that's a second place. Yeah. So that's a second place where a bill could die, is on deciding whether, some bills just get a public hearing and then never get raised for a vote. That's the second place but usually if it gets a public hearing, odds are it's probably going to get brought up for a vote.
Okay.
So that's the first, sign, and then you ultimately have a bill, and the committee will have a committee vote on it. As you'd expect, it's proportional to the majorities that the Democrats have in the House and the Senate. So
if there's 6 people on a committee, 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans.
Correct. It's something
in that area.
I don't know the exact math, but yes, it's proportional to the majorities of the parties in the House and the Senate. So the committees are heavily dominated by the Democrats, and so you'll vote on a bill, and the bill will get out of committee. And if it gets out of committee, then at that point it really does have life, because there's only two more steps. Then you get into the whole "I'm just a bill" on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Because it's the House, the Senate, the governor signs it, and it's a law. So once the committee process is really important, because once a bill gets out of the committee process and gets voted favorably out of a committee, that's when it really starts to get legs and some life in terms of really becoming law.